Welcome to the Odds Breakers, your number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, no, to the no, no. Hell to the no, no, to the no, 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 no. Hell to the no, no.
To say that I'm disappointed would be a huge understatement. Welcome back to podcast 85 of 2024. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the Oddsbreakers, Fouls on social media / the Oddsbreakers. This episode is sponsored by mybookie.ag. For an up to $1,000 sign-up bonus, please visit the link in this podcast description. Terms, conditions, location apply. If you'd like to support the Oddsbreakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. Pick any of our winning cappers to get the premium plays before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com. And if nothing else, please visit the Oddsbreakers and become a free Picks and Telegram subscriber. Hell to the no. You know, just as a fan, man, as a Badger fan and a Bears fan, this last weekend was utterly embarrassing.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no.
I mean, it all started on Saturday with the Badgers, you know. Perfect spot for them to steal an upset to finally get a Category 1 type win, you know. And what do? They crap all over themselves, you know. The score was 10-7. The Badgers were up, and Penn State lost their quarterback, Alar, right? And what do? They run the ball twice, which is extremely expected, with Phil Longo with complete bonehead. And then what's the worst thing you can do with a young quarterback when you're playing against a great defense and you're up 10-7 and they're down to their backup quarterback? You throw it down the middle.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Yeah.
Absolute incompetence from the Badgers. Incompetence. Pick six. Changes the momentum of the game. The backup quarterback for Penn State comes in with a little confidence. Defense shits the bed. Andy Kotelnicki looks way better than what the Badgers have. He should be the Badgers' next coach. You know? He's the one that should be the Badgers' next coach. But, you know, just an absolute embarrassment. And not only do they not cover the plus 6.5, they don't cover the plus 8.5 that I gave out on Sunday, or the plus 11.5 that I took the week before.
Hell no, to the no, no, no.
I mean, that just started it all off. But the truth is, my line value, my closing line value was very good, but just got absolutely smoked. We had LSU plus 3.5. How did that work out? Texas A&M put the real quarterback in, not the fake one. You know, that didn't turn out well. Louisiana Monroe up by 7 points, plus 7.5. Great line value. Completely shits the bed. San Jose State, same deal. You know, just brutal on that side of things. I had a bad college football weekend. Went from great the last weekend to bad this weekend. Thank God I went 4-1 in UFC and had a monster weekend, all plus money. That helped Saturday. You know, there wasn't really much to recap for Saturday because, I mean, for an upset-wise, there wasn't a ton of upsets. You know, the big teams won. The only good game in the middle of the day was Texas Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt put up another huge fight, but just couldn't couldn't come across the line to win, but man, did they cover. That was one that I kind of shied off of, but then Texas's Isaiah Bond was out. I was like, oh, I still think Texas can do it. Then they listed another receiver out, and I was like, my God, I wish I would have bet it. I was actually looking towards Texas, but then that happened, and you just know you're always going to get a hell of an effort from Pavia, right? That guy's just an absolute stud. Diego's not going to be an NFL quarterback most likely, but he sure as hell has a lot of Doug Flutie in him, doesn't he? Maybe he can figure something out there. I don't know. Russell Wilson did. I don't know, man. Be worth a late draft pick. Maybe the kid's just a footballer, But anyways, if you play Survivor, you're probably trying to get creative, and I am in College Survivor, and with these big teams always winning, it's tough, because do you want to split it with 300 people to make triple your money, or do you want something big to happen and then win a ton of it? That's what I want. So I'm going to have to get really creative this week. I'm not going to go on Miami or Mississippi State against UMass. I'm hoping for some upsets here. But anyways, this is not about me. This is about college football and NFL and some of the recaps. So the good news is that my Indiana tickets at 200 to 1, 290 to 1, a little bit for the conference is still looking good. They make the playoffs. That would be a nice hit at 200 to 1. We gave that out before the season, but don't want to count them yet. There's tons of time left yet. Plenty of ways to screw up. They're supposed to be getting their quarterback back, and they actually won on defense against Washington. It was their defense that won that game. They really need Curtis Rourke back. Texas A&M, fantastic effort, obviously. And then the biggest upset was Kennesaw State, but that was during the week. That was way back there, like Tuesday or Wednesday. But they kind of showed that Liberty is not going to be a playoff team now, so we have to thank Kennesaw State for that. Man, I guess the bye week really did some good. One of my few bets I won was Houston. We had the +4. I actually went to +5 against Utah. I was like, did anyone watch that Utah games last week? That looked pretty disgusting. And, Bama took care of business, and I thought their quarterback, Brady Cook, was going to play for Missouri. He went in for a little while, then went right out. And the +16 was completely gone by then. You knew that did not have a chance when the backup, Drew Pine, came in. Holy cow, is that dude bad? Drew Pine. Oh, I don't know how the heck he's a quarterback. I guess he's got some rich family or something. Moving on to Sunday in the NFL. I got a lot to talk about with the Bears, but I'm going to save that for the next segment. The big upsets, obviously, Cleveland Browns took out the Baltimore Ravens. One of our winning picks. I'm actually went 4-1 in the circa this week. I went 1-4 the week before, though. So it's just, okay, evens that out. I'm probably hovering around the middle in that. But that was just a massive win for the Browns. The Cardinals beating the Miami Dolphins hurt a lot of people. Man, I took the Cardinals at +3.5, and it goes the other way on me still. And I'm like, geez. And I tried to get cute, and I said, all right, I'm going to take Miami and the Jets on a money line parlay. Well, I'm glad I hit the Cardinals, but I'll tell you this, that money line parlay, both legs lost. So, one of those that I'm like, well, geez, I should have been like the only person in America sticking with my inclination on the Cardinals. But anyways, that was interesting. I actually had a positive NFL day because of a couple teasers. We hit our refuse to lose teaser. I also did a 10-point teaser to kind of protect a few bets. I teased Tampa to +12.5. That got really dicey. And then Washington to +13. And you know what happened there. And it would have been really nice bankroll-wise if the Bears won. I had a beautiful middle before that Hail Mary full of disgrace from what I heard on 670 The Score this morning. That's the exact way to say it. But Eagles also just destroying the Bengals was a massive upset, Just NFL's NFLing, It's crazy. You get the Chiefs you think the Chiefs are going to want to put a pounding on the Raiders, and one of the bets I lost, and the Raiders just typically completely shit the bed at the end, and then what did they do? They backdoor it, because that's what the Raiders do. They backdoor everyone, and the Chiefs let it happen a lot too. So one of those situations where you're like, oh, thanks for letting them score, Andy Reid. The Chiefs kind of just let down when they're up by two scores, I've noticed over the years, And then obviously Cowboys versus San Fran was supposed to be the best game, and it was for a while. It was really low scoring in the first half and real high scoring in the second. Boy, the Cowboys just did what the Cowboys do. 3 touchdowns to 0 in the third quarter. And man, I started feeling really good about my San Fran -4 until the very end when the Cowboys almost won that game. I was like, oh, seriously? That closed at 5.5, and hopefully you didn't bet a 6 or something, but they won by 6. So it was just one of those interesting endings for the NFL. But let's talk a little the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. And there's plenty to go around, as we know. The good, Liberty loses to Kennesaw State, so we don't have to worry about that horrible team being in the playoffs. My God, that was that was just awful for people to think about that. Indiana with a backup quarterback in Taven Jackson, who's actually Trace Jackson Davis's brother. How about that effort, man? That was awesome. And how about Nebraska's effort against Ohio State, man? They really showed up that game. They played tough. Nebraska, man. Alabama, they had a great effort finally, but it did also, show that the Missouri is terrible without their quarterback Brady Cook. Colorado, I got a little bit of a play for you when we get to Beer Bet Bangers with Brad Powers coming up this week for our Halloween episode. College basketball coming up. So later this week, we'll have a show on that. Marcel Reed from Texas A&M. Dude, you are awesome. I don't know why he's not starting over Wegman. Marvin Harrison Jr., he was a huge part of that comeback for the Cardinals. That guy is just a stud. I still think he was the best pick for a wide receiver in the draft class anyway. Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, baby, licking his fingers, beating the Baltimore Ravens. But that's the reason I bet him, man. When I talked about it, that was the reason. It's like he can sling the ball. The Ravens have a terrible secondary. CeeDee Lamb. He made that game interesting last night at the end. Thank God he was on my fantasy team too. Holy cow, did he light up the scoreboard at the end. Jaden Daniels' arm on that Hail Mary. Holy cow, was that insane. Jaden Daniels, wow. And then tight ends. It was National Tight Ends Day yesterday, or if you're getting this Tuesday morning, Sunday. Holy cow, did they all go off. I'm so mad at myself. I should have seen that. The bad, Boston College's choke. They had that game won and choked against Louisville. How about real bad, referee Clete Blakeman strikes again? Watching a face mask from 10 feet away on Sam Darnold, but not calling it. Now, the reason this is not ugly is because it didn't cost him the game. Sam Darnold and the Vikings were down by 8. But allowing that when you're staring at it, this guy is... something's worse than just incompetent with him. Fraud Navy and my bet on Navy. Oh, man, I apologize, Notre Dame. That fumble, obviously, in the beginning of the game, kind of really put them on their heels. A team like Navy or any running or option team is not good to try to play catch-up football. Oregon State's some of the worst Oregon State football I've seen in many years, before the John Smith era. Wisconsin losing to a backup. Oh my God, was that a choke? That was just absolutely inconceivable. And then Penn State covering the sons of... Texas Tech's choke. Texas Tech had their game won, and then they choked that thing away against TCU. LSU's run D. Man, did Texas A&M and Marcel Reed run all over LSU, not covering my wonderful line value there that closed around Pick'em. Penalty yards taken away. So here's the thing. Wisconsin had a wonderful kick return in the first half, and the refs called a phantom hold, and they replayed it. And thank God the announcers were honest ones, unlike the NFL and many other leagues or announcers. They said there is no holding there. As a matter of fact, the guy barely even touched the guy. And yeah, I mean, I wish penalty yards taken away would show up in box scores. It doesn't, because the Badgers would have had to score there. And maybe that game's completely different. How about the no Legatron, Greg Zuerlein? He is no Legatron because he can't make field goals anymore. Why is he still on a team? If I'm the Jets, I cut him. The Titans special teams. This is the worst special teams against the punt and the kickoff that I've seen in years. That's where the Lions' yards were. They had hundreds just on special teams. It was absolutely insane to me. Now for the ugly. The targeting on Ohio State, that wasn't targeting. So that really was screwing with them at the end of the game too. They should have been out of that earlier. That was pathetic. Do you know what targeting is? It's meant for the helmet and spearing people. I mean, every tackle is a target then. Every single one. Blindside blocks and targeting is ruining this sport. Central Michigan loses by 39 points. Holy cow, Central Michigan, you're bad. UTSA losing to Tulsa is pretty pathetic. Tulsa is one of the worst teams around. Michigan having 0 penalties. 0 freaking penalties? Amazing. How did that happen at home? Phil Longo, like I said, from the Badgers with that boneheaded pass through the middle. If you're going to do that, why did you have 2 running plays when it's extremely predictable? Kyle Pitts, dude, he fumbled that ball. And I was on Atlanta. I gave that away as a play at -2.5. The game could have been different. I thought that McKinney or whoever that was did knock it out. They didn't show a sideline cam or a pylon cam on that. Maybe the feed went bad or something, or maybe they just, I have no idea, but I truly believe that ball was fumbled before the end zone. It blows my mind. He celebrated early. The Colts clock management, man, that was pretty bad from the Colts. They could have managed the clock way better at the end of that game. Kind of remind me about the old Chargers there. The Bears coach's handoff to a lineman. I mean, in the bye, you expect your coaches to like run plays, button up, because the Bears have been starting games terribly, and they actually had their worst start ever after a bye week. It just shows you how poorly coached this team is. They work on handing it off to a freaking lineman. They fumbled it. Thank God the Bears drove again to score. And this should have been all about Caleb Williams without that massive, horrible fail at the end. How the Raiders backdooring again. Last week it was a boneheaded field goal, and this week's just had to score. Gardner Minshew is in the Raiders. 25% of the time they're way above average, and then 75% of the time this team is way below average. It's just hard to bet on or off this team. I guess the rule of thumb is to fade them every week, but Jesus, man. You get these massive numbers trying to fade them, and I failed in that last week. Tyreek Stevenson celebrating and taunting the Washington Commanders while the Hail Mary pass is going on. That was a disgusting look. And then he apologized, but the same thing is, why are you doing that? But it all comes on the boneheaded, absolutely 100% incompetent Bears coach in Matt Eberflus.
Hell no, to the no, 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 hell to the no.
Not only did you start the game terribly again after a bye week, you botched the whole rest of the game. That whole sequence of events. You hand the ball off to a lineman like he's the Fridge Perry or something in a big game, and he fumbles it. But at the end, you have 3 timeouts. 3. They have 19 seconds in a timeout. You let them get to the Hail Mary territory. You didn't call a timeout to talk to your defense. But not only that, after that, your defense is gassed, they're tired, and you freaking just let them go and throw a Hail Mary with 2 seconds left.
Hell to the no.
You know? Absolute insane to me. You have 3 freaking timeouts. Guess what? You still have 3 timeouts from that half. Eberflus, you still have 3. I mean, you could have instead of putting a spy on Jaden Daniels, you could have a little bit of a pass rush there. Maybe put Sweat back in, you know? And then just the guy screwing around with the crowd, that's on coaching. But one of the most common ways of catching a Hail Mary is bouncing off people's hands. Dude, I have never, ever, in Eberflus's 3-year tenure, I should say, seen the Bears win a game because of coaching. I have only saw the Bears lose games because of Matt Eberflus multiple times.
You want some water? Drink.
Now it's time for a little college football. Week 9 misleading final scores. In Liberty, outgained Kennesaw State 386-323, yet lost 27-24. A 1-0 turnover ratio and 9 penalties got the Flames. Syracuse yards were mainly garbage versus Pitt, 5 ugly turnovers. Rutgers yards were also garbage time. North Texas's yards were mainly garbage time as well. Georgia Tech outgained Virginia Tech 356-223, yet lost 21-6. A rough 2-0 turnover ratio and horrible red zone got the Bees. UTSA outgained Tulsa 546-433, yet lost 46-45. They won the turnover battle 2-1, but 12 penalties and bad fourth down efficiency, 1 for 4. Got the Roadrunners. 1 out of 5. That means 1 win, 4 losses. Toledo outgained Bowling Green 422-402, yet lost 41-26. A 2-0 turnover ratio got the Rockets. Eastern Michigan outgained Akron 481-378, yet lost 25-21. Equal turnovers at 1, but bad red zone efficiency got the Eagles. Maryland's yards were mainly garbage time. They're getting destroyed by Minnesota in the beginning. Michigan State outgained Michigan 352-265, yet lost 24-17. A 1-0 turnover ratio and poor red zone got Sparty. Michigan, like I said, also had 0 penalties. Fresno State only outgained San Jose State 401-385, yet won 33-10. A huge 4-1 turnover ratio got the Spartans. College football, Week 10, betting spots. I guess Indiana at Michigan State after beating Washington is possible. Washington went to the championship last year, but they tend to ignore those and still keep covering. Texas A&M at South Carolina is one after beating LSU. Houston hosting Kansas State after beating Utah is one. Kennesaw State at Western Kentucky after beating Liberty is one. And Texas A&M at South Carolina after an emotional LSU win is definitely one of them. Oh, it just said Texas A&M twice. Well, there you go. Get up spots. Wisconsin needs to wake up at Iowa after crapping the bed against Penn State. Nebraska needs to rise hosting UCLA after 2 rough road games. UCLA off the bye, though. Illinois hosting Minnesota is one after the Oregon debacle, and Liberty hosting Jacksonville State is there due to the Kennesaw State upset. Kentucky better wake up at Tennessee after the Auburn loss. Look ahead spots. Ole Miss looking past Arkansas to Georgia is one. Virginia Tech looking past Syracuse to Clemson is possible. Indiana could look past Michigan State to Michigan. Long rest. New Mexico State coming off the bye with an extra 3 days over FIU. Sam Houston coming off the bye with an extra 3 days hosting Louisiana Tech. UTEP with an extra day over Middle Tennessee State. Western Kentucky with an extra 4 days rest coming off the bye hosting Kennesaw State. Georgia Southern with an extra 2 days at South Alabama. Old Dominion with an extra 2 days at App State. Syracuse with an extra 2 days hosting Virginia Tech. Pitt with an extra 2 days actually at SMU. Clemson with an extra day of rest Clemson's coming off the bye with an extra 6 days hosting Louisville. UNLV with an extra day of rest at Hawaii. Boise State with an extra day of rest hosting San Diego State. USC with an extra day of rest at Washington. Arizona State off the bye at Oklahoma State. Coastal Carolina off the bye at Troy. Iowa State off the bye hosting Texas Tech. Marshall off the bye hosting Louisiana Monroe. NC State off the bye hosting Stanford. Purdue off the bye hosting Northwestern. South Carolina off the bye hosting Texas A&M. Tennessee off the bye hosting Kentucky. UAB off the bye hosting Tulsa. UCLA off the bye at Nebraska. Couple revenge spots. There's probably more than this, but just a few that stuck out to me was Wisconsin is at Iowa. That's one from last year's home loss, so maybe some road revenge there. And Penn State may want to finally beat Ohio State once in a while. We'll see if their quarterback Drew Allar's back or if they're still going to be on their backup. That's key to this game. NFL Week 8 misleading final scores. The Chargers outgained the Saints 378 to 366, yet won 26-8. No turnovers, but horrible red zone efficiency. Got the Aints. Man, that was just a bad red zone by their quarterbacks there. But maybe when Carr comes back, he can look great for a week like he usually does. The Jets outgained the Patriots 336 to 247, yet lost 25 to 22. Bad red zone efficiency and bad special teams got the Jets. Just can't seem to make field goals. The Titans were mainly garbage with their yards, but it's their special teams that gave up that whole game. I mean, that was awful. And the Lions do have a bad defense. I'd like to see the Lions trailing to a pretty good team. That's interesting when the team can kind of sit back in too high shell, maybe a little double wide type scenario or cover three. Tampa's yards were also some garbage time, but they did throw 3 interceptions due to their injured wide receivers. I just wanted to mention that. So not a ton of NFL Week 8 misleading final scores, but NFL Week 9 betting spots. The Commanders at the Giants after the crazy Hail Mary from the Bears, full of disgrace. Cardinals hosting the Bears after beating Miami. Patriots at the Titans after beating the Jets. Browns hosting the Chargers after beating the Ravens is one. Eagles could be flat after the big Bengals win. Get up spots. The Bears at the Cardinals after the whole
Hell no.
Cowboys at Atlanta after the 49ers third quarter debacle. Jets hosting the Texans is interesting as they were very embarrassed by losing to the Patriots. Ravens hosting the Broncos after the Cleveland loss, and the Vikings hosting the Colts after losing to the Rams. Look ahead spots. Texans looking past the Jets to the Lions is one for sure. Eagles looking past Jacksonville to the Cowboys is there. Short rest. Giants after Monday night hosting the Commanders is short rest, and then long rest. Vikings after the Thursday night football hosting the Colts, and Rams after Thursday night football at the Seahawks. No buys this week, so keep that in mind. We will have some next week. So that brings us to our college football free play that we're giving out. Man, I didn't make a ton of plays. Oh, which one should I choose? Lines moved in my direction here. Not a ton, though. I'm going to go with Oregon minus 15 against Michigan. Yeah, I got a little bit better of a number, but I don't see how Michigan scores. I don't. And Oregon knows that they are the team that they think that they should have been playing in the national title last year. And I'll just say that Danny Lanning is probably coach of the year, probably winning that Bear Bryant Award. But man, I think Oregon's offense is just unstoppable, and Michigan's defense is not even close to what it was. But it's also that Oregon's got a pretty good defense, They're number one in my power ratings now. They moved past Ohio State after last week. And they're playing with a lot of confidence. And I think they're going to check this box here. Not as like they're getting revenge against Michigan, but they probably felt that they should have been in a playoff system last year. And this is just another team to get through, especially the team that won it all last year. So I actually like Oregon here to win by 20 plus points. My algorithm has them winning by more than that, believe it or not. And my power ratings have Michigan as a pretty bad team. I have this as a 20-point victory just from straight power ratings here. So I'm not afraid to lay the chalk here on this one. Let's take it at minus 15 for 2 stars.
The dynasty has just begun.
All right, now it's time for a little fantasy football week 9 with our guy, D Nasty. Now it's time for a little fantasy football. D Nasty is back. Dave, man, this Steelers game is on against the Giants, and I got to tell you, it's been not exactly a fantasy football player's dream.
Yeah, not a very high-scoring game here, and the only touchdown that Pittsburgh scored was on a special teams return, so not a very exciting game to watch by far. I totally agree.
Well, how many touchdowns were called back?
What's that?
How many touchdowns were called back? From just penalty.
Oh,
I mean,
two
for Pickens. I have Pickens. It's like he taps his right foot twice. I feel like that's harder than getting 2 feet down. Warren Sharp just tweeted that out too. It's like, how is that in a rule book is not a touchdown if you hop twice with your foot and touch twice? That is insane to me, man. But I mean, yeah, from a fantasy perspective, it's kind of sucky.
Exactly. Yeah, the neighbors won too. Well, the neighbors penalty, I should say. They scored on that too, but that was a very questionable call too. Actually, on the neighbors penalty, he didn't have to be set. The receiver next to him was set, so there should have been a touchdown as well, I think. But yeah, very odd game tonight.
Totally, man. Already, just ending the third, 8 penalties on the Giants, 4 on the Steelers, and obviously the bunch declined and. Yeah, and it doesn't even show the ones that sometimes take them back. So, yeah, it is really weird. 222 yards for the Giants, 302 for the Steelers, but only 16-9, a bunch of field goals. Unfortunately, I do have Boswell, but it's in a league that I'm destroying, in my league, where I'm just destroying Kaz in that league and stuff like that. But it's been a crazy week of football, man. It's been nuts. Rough for me as a Badger and a Bears fan, Dave. It was... if there wasn't the Badgers wasn't enough, I knew that was going to happen because it's Matt Eberflus. It's like if there's a window to mess up, he will mess it up, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, but you got to give the Jane Daniels. That was a ridiculous throw by him, but Noah Brown was just at the right place at the right time on that too. It was an amazing play.
It's the only place, the only guy in the end zone. Of course, the only place at the only time, and that's where the Bears. It's like couldn't call timeout to go over it, but I ran it enough. People are going to stop listening to this show. I've ranted enough about that today on the earlier segment, talking about the weekend.
Well, Stevenson too, trying to sit there and taunt the crowd while not paying attention to what's going on. That just is, yeah. He already apologized though, which is big thing for him, but. It's big on him to do that, but still, big mistake on his part.
You should call timeout just for seeing that. Him way in the corner over there, and I guess he wasn't taunting the Redskins, the Commanders fans. There's some Bears fans there. There's a lot of Bears fans that travel, and he was kind of hyping up with them. But still, the play's going on while you did that. But it just shows the incompetence of the coach. It's just bad. But the Bears have a lot to look forward to. They just got to get rid of that guy. Packers win. That was nice for them. Even without a quarterback, with Malik Willis in there, and that kind of shows what a good coach can do. That's the difference. Packers have a good coach, and that's why they're in it, and they're winning games with Malik Willis, which is absolutely insane. We'll see when we get to our segment here. And why don't you start with bye weeks, Dave?
All right, only 2 bye weeks this week, so a light bye week this week. 2 major teams though that are on bye. Steelers, who are actually playing tonight. Russell Wilson, George Pickens. Van Jefferson has actually looked pretty decent tonight. He's had some nice catches tonight. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. Those are going to be the Pat Fremuth, maybe. He's borderline starter, though. So those are going to be the major guys for the Steelers. 49ers, of course, Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Jordan Mason, CMC when he is back, but he's not back yet, so we're not going to count him. And then Ricky Pearsall, he actually looked pretty good this past week. And then Brandon Ayuk, who's out for the year, though, so he doesn't really count as well. But and George Kittle had a monster game. Yeah. George Kittle went off.
Dude, it was tight ends week. It was tight ends week. I would have started 2 tight ends in some of those flexes, man. I didn't know they were going to be that serious about that.
Oh, tight ends went off this week. I think it was the most ever. I think 177 receptions this week or something like they were saying. It was just a ridiculous amount of touchdowns too that they scored this week. Yeah, it was definitely a tight ends week this week. It definitely was National Tight Ends Day. I'll tell you that.
It certainly was, man. Just insane. Looks like the Steelers got another touchdown, but they passed to Calvin Austin. Not too many people starting Calvin Austin the third in their fantasy league, so unless you're in the super deep league. But yeah, now he all of a sudden is the highest scorer for the Steelers with 3 receptions, 54 yards, and 1 touchdown. So yeah, just the Steelers and the Niners. Why don't you get into key injuries, Dave, since you can start it off with Jordan Love?
Sounds good. Yes, Jordan Love. Unfortunately, that was tough to see. We thought it was his knee again, but it's actually his groin. He injured his groin and he re-injured it again in the second half. He is questionable for this week. They said he could potentially play. At first, they thought it was going to be very serious, but they said it's not as serious, not a long-term thing. For sure, he'll be back after the bye because they play the Detroit this week, which is a very tough game. I'd almost be okay with them sitting because I don't think they really win against Detroit, even though they're playing at home. I don't like it with a couple injuries they have, but Detroit's just been steamrolling people too anyway, but I'll get off of that. But definitely questionable for this week. I would definitely plan on him not playing, though, potentially, because I think they do hold him out, and then they rest him during the bye and get him completely healthy for the stretch run. But definitely keep an eye on that. There weren't a lot of injuries this week, but there were a lot of severe season-ending injuries. Christian Kirk, he has a clavicle fracture, so essentially broken shoulder or broken collarbone. So he's going to be out for the year. You can definitely drop him or put him on IR if you're in a dynasty league. Stephon Diggs, potentially it's going to be season ending for him as well, knee injury. They haven't said anything more yet, though. The MRIs haven't come back yet, but they said it could be a potentially ACL or MCL tear. So more to come on that. It was a non-contact injury too, which was very surprising, but that's definitely how they happen, though. Jordan Mason re-injured his shoulder, so it's good that the bye is coming up for him, but he's definitely going to be out. And on the good injury front, CMC should be returning after their bye this week. He could potentially return week 10. So definitely keep an eye out for him and get him back on your roster if he is out there still. And then if you did put him on your IR, you might want to be bringing him back up. They said he should be back after the bye, so several reports are saying that. So it's good news on that front. Deebo Samuel, rib injury. He's projecting a Week 10 return as well after the bye, so that's a good for him as well. And then last couple injuries, Brian Thomas, chest injury. He's going to be questionable for this week. They haven't really said anything more about it. They just said it's a chest/rib injury, so he should potentially be back. DJ Moore, your boy from Chicago, you might even have more information on this one. Possible rib injury. So they said he's questionable for this week as well. So definitely play through those rib injuries, but they're definitely very painful. Yeah. Gabe Davis, a shoulder injury. He's questionable as well. They said he could miss up to 2 to 4 weeks is what they're saying for him for that shoulder injury. So definitely keep an eye on that. They're going to be very short-handed for the Jaguars with the 2 injuries to Kirk and Brian Thomas, both in the same game. And then the last one is Drake May for New England. Amazing win by New England. It was awesome just seeing the beat.
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh my God. Aaron Rodgers is in the darkness again, too, he said. He's trying to overcome the darkness. But anyways, Drake May, concussion, be questionable for this week. So
he's probably on a Ouija board right now and shit going.
Yeah, I'm so glad he's gone. Anyways, but yeah, Drake May. So we'll keep an eye on that situation, too. He possibly could come back this week with the concussion, but it's really hard to tell. He could miss anyone to 1 to 2 weeks due to the concussions. So that's the average that people are missing right now for that.
Yeah, I hear Thomas, he had a pretty good report today, so I'm optimistic that he's going to play against the Eagles. I mean, he's so needed now that Kirk is hurt, and there's a couple guys on the waivers. I mean, you covered everything, I think. You talked about Diggs, right? I mean, too bad for Diggs. He's probably out for the year, but they didn't confirm it yet, They
haven't yet, but it didn't look good, though, no. And his brother was like after the Cowboys game, he was trying to watch video of what happened to his older brother too, because I think he was even pretty shook up by it too. So I think he kind of knew already too that he's probably out for the year. So that tells you something right there too.
Yeah. The Jets are playing the Texans this Thursday, and it doesn't look like Nico Collins will be back yet. Now, the Texans can't afford to lose a game, so I don't expect them to start Nico Collins, and that's why you're seeing some line movement on the Jets' favor right here. So let's move on to waiver wire, because you basically hit everything. Jacoby Brissett again for the May injury. If you want to lose next week, he's there. But if you're desperate, you got to try it. Now, Malik Willis. The Lions' defense is pretty bad. It's just that the Lions are always playing from ahead, but I don't know if he can throw the ball much. I think he's going to get a lot of rushing yards. So, Malik Willis, I would almost put him at equal or better than Brissett this week. So we'll see. Isaac Guerrero for the Mason injury is big for about a week. I know they're going on bye, but is it for sure that McCaffrey comes back? And if he does, Guerrero will still get some carries, in my opinion. So I like Guerrero.
Yeah, they're not gonna give him a full load when he comes back either. They're gonna definitely ease him back. They want to keep him healthy. So yeah, they're gonna be definitely very cautious with CMC when he's back.
Definitely. I got Gabe Davis for the Christian Kirk injury. I think that's a solid pickup there. I think that could be a nice little sleeper pickup for Gabe Davis.
He's injured as well, though. I just went over that in the injury report, though, so keep an eye on that too.
Yes, I think he plays, though. Kirk's definitely not playing. And if he doesn't play,
Kirk's still for the year.
You definitely can use Gabe Davis another week. So pick him up, put him on your IR if he falls in the O spot, and then, see what he does next week. But I also got Trey Palmer, too, wide receiver for the Shepard injury as well. So Trey Palmer, couple unheard of guys, I wouldn't say unheard of, but like quiet guys might start making some noise. Lad McConkey, man. I know he's owned in about 60% of Yahoo leagues, but if Lad McConkey's not owned by now, holy cow. Did he have a monster day last week? And Herbert's really slinging that ball now. Wide receiver Josh Downs was solid last week with 5 catches. So I like him maybe for a speculative move. I think I've used him before, but I'll say one more time. And plus Flacco might be the quarterback now at Indy. So that would be awesome. We're trying to wonder about that. I'm sure everyone owns Flacco by now, but maybe check. Calvin Ridley, 15 targets as well. It's funny how the Titans talked smack this week and says, we're not going to try to target Kelvin this much anymore. And then now he has his best game.
Well, and then with Hopkins gone too now, I kind of like really going forward, actually, because with Hopkins gone, he's going to be the main guy there now. They're going to just feed him no matter what. So
without a doubt, I agree.
Yeah.
Zeke had a great game against the Niners. And I thought they were going to really push Dalvin Cook with the Dowdle out. I wonder if Dowdle's in the doghouse. He hasn't had a good year, but neither has Elliott until last game. Now, they still lost the game. Holy cow, was CeeDee Lamb nuts.
I disagree on that, I guess. I think Zeke, the only reason Zeke had a good game is because Dowdle was out. And Dowdle's actually been pretty solid. He's been getting a majority of the carries and played pretty well when he's been playing. They brought Dalvin Cook up, but Dalvin Cook really didn't do much.
No, he didn't do anything.
Dowdle's still the number one there, I think.
It was against the Niners, though. It's hard to tell against the Niners, but yeah I would stay away from this situation for like a running back 2. I wouldn't even touch him for a 2. So something for the bench, maybe Zeke. Zeke's kind of like the guy that's just getting passed around in leagues, right? So those are my waiver wires, Dave. Who are yours?
I have most of the same ones. Jameis Winston, he had a great game this past week. If he still is out there by any chance,
I grabbed him up. Yeah, I grabbed him last week, man, in our Dynasty League, too. That was nice. I think he's going to be starter going the rest of the year, I think.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And he could be a league winner, actually, too. This is definitely a league winner right here. So Jameis Winston, definitely plug him in. I have Malik Willis as well. Russell Wilson, if he's still out there, even though they're on bye next week, some people might drop him, or he's definitely not going to be owned. He's definitely owned in many leagues, but if so, definitely pick him up if he's out there. Tyrone Tracy, actually had a really nice game tonight. Actually,
he just scored a TD.
Last time I checked, he had over 80 yards.
He just scored a TD, 45-yard touchdown run.
Oh, so yeah, so over 100 yards and a touchdown tonight again. So definitely, he's the starter now. There, Devin Singletary is definitely the backup there now. Tyrone Tracy is definitely taking over that backfield. He's really good, young-looking back. He was a converted wide receiver, too, so he looked crisp. He had some nice bursts. He was playing against a good defense tonight, too, and he had some nice runs already tonight against Pittsburgh. So definitely like him a lot. If he's still out there, he's not owned in he's actually, it looks like he's owned in about 52% of leagues, so about half right now. So if he's out there, definitely scoop him up. Nice bye week fill-in for the two running backs. If you had any running backs on the Frisco or Steelers, definitely plug him in. I definitely like him going forward, playing against a great defense too. This is a speculative ad that's actually that you might want to add. Khalil Herbert from the Bears. He potentially could get traded before the trade deadline. And guess who actually would trade for him that we just were talking about? Dallas Cowboys actually were interested in him, rumors have it. So if not to the Cowboys, he could go to a team that is running back needy. So he's not getting very many carries with the Bears right now. And I do see him getting a move before the deadline with DeAndre Swift playing better now. And Roscoe Johnson actually looking pretty good too as well. Roscoe Johnson actually, he was a second string role, but it had at least 27% snap rate. I did have a touchdown this past week as well. So I definitely think Herbert gets moved before the deadline. So definitely keep an eye on him. Braylon Allen, actually, some people have dropped him in some of your leagues because he's been struggling the last couple of weeks. He had a nice week this past week. He had over 12 carries. He had a touchdown. He actually looked really good this past week. So even though they lost, he looked really good. Cedric Tillman, we might have talked about him a little bit last week, but actually he was a fantasy stud this past week. He scored the winning touchdown against Baltimore, 2 touchdowns this past week. And his 12 targets for 81 yards receiving wasn't enough. He erupted for 99 the week before. He had 99 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns on 9 targets this past week. So 2 solid weeks in a row. I definitely think he's the number 1 there now with Cooper gone. So definitely pick him up, plug him in. You already touched base on Keon Coleman last week and Josh Downs. Definitely those are 2 guys that should be owned right now as well. Rashad Bateman, picked him up. He kind of struggled again this week, but him and Michael Wilson, 2 speculative ads that going forward. Julian McMillan for the Shepard injury. I like Trey Palmer as well. Kashawn Butte, actually, against the poor Tennessee pass defense, and Ricky Purcell. Those guys, even though he's on bye, he actually looked good this past week. They were going to him quite a bit at the beginning of that game this past week, so I like him. One other person, Hunter Henry, we kind of talked about him last week, so I'm not going to go too much into that one. And then our defense I like streaming this week is New Orleans Saints. Of course, they're playing the Carolina Panthers, so definitely like that matchup this week. Bryce Young is turnover prone. He did have another pick this past week. So definitely the New Orleans Saints should have at least a couple turnovers this week on defense. And Carolina is on a very high-scoring offense as well. So definitely like New Orleans defense this week.
All right. Their defense has been pretty bad the last few weeks. Can the Panthers score on them? I don't know. I know they've been really injured too, but if they can get some guys back, that always helps. Why don't you move right into non-starters trending up, Dave? Some sleepers for week 9.
Sounds good. Well, I do like the Texans against the Jets this week. The Jets defense has been faltering. When the New England Patriots can hang 25 on you, that's not a good look. Not a good defense either as well. I like Tank Dell this week with Nico Collins still out, especially with the Stephon Diggs injury. So I definitely like him this week. I think he has a big week against the Jets. He's going to be their main guy this week, especially with Diggs out, and then Nico's not back yet as well. And then I like the Falcons this week against the Cowboys. Cowboys pass defense and run defense. Tyler Algier is a guy I like this week against that poor Cowboys run defense. They go over 200 yards this past week on the ground. So I definitely like Ty Algier, even though you're not really not starting him. I think he gets quite a few carries this week as well. And they use that run game against that poor Dallas run D. Definitely like that matchup this week. I like Rashad Bateman, even though the Broncos do have a good defense. I do like Rashad Bateman. He's a guy I think that's trending up still. Zay Flowers is going to get his, but I think Bateman bounces back this week and has a good week this week. Before that, he averaged over like 10 fantasy points a week the last 3 weeks before this past week. So I definitely like him. The Saints, I like the Saints this week. I think Alvin Kamara has a good game against the Panthers. Panthers defense is not that good. I like him. Even Spencer Rattler might be borderline starter even this week, but probably not still. But I definitely like Kamara this week for sure against that poor defense. T. Higgins was a surprise crash this past week, but I do like Chase Brown and this week against that poor Raiders D. I think he could do well. He had a touchdown this past week as well again. And then the Chargers, I like Justin Herbert, like you said. If you're not starting him, definitely you are this week. Even though the Browns have a good defense normally, their front four is very good. Their pass defense doesn't look that good. So I think Justin can have a nice week this week. J.K. Dobbins, I don't know if actually I'm not going to say him, but I definitely like Justin. I like Ladd this week too after his breakout game last week. So he's another guy that's trending up. The Commanders, what can I say? I like Jane Daniels this week. He's got to be a starter now, I think, after the season he's been having. So
Oh, come on. You say he is not a non-starter trending up, dude. This guy has been fantasy balling the whole year. By the way, Pickens 50-yard. Pickens just got Pickens just got a 43-yard gain for the Steelers. But yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels, I think he's better than most quarterbacks out there, ain't he? Isn't he like one of the best top 5 quarterbacks as a fantasy player now?
He is now. So yeah, if you're not, you definitely, he's a must start this week. Essentially, is what I was saying. Okay. He's not a non-starter trending up, but he's a must start this week against the Giants. Is essentially what I was saying.
Okay.
So I like Kyler Murray this week against the Bears. The Bears defense has actually been looking really good, but Kyler Murray's been balling those last couple of weeks. I think they continue staying hot. I like him this week against the Bears. I know that most people wouldn't agree with that, but the Bears have a good D. But I do like Kyler Murray this week. I do like the Eagles this week. I like Devontae Smith. He had a nice week this week, finally. It was a breakout game this week. I like him again this next week against the poor Jaguars D. Jaguars D is going to get him up a lot of points. So I do like him this week. I hate to say it, but I like Jared Goff this week against the Packers. Packers pass D didn't look that good this past week against the Trevor Lawrence. So Jared Goff has actually been on fire the last 2-3 weeks, too. He's got an ankle injury, but he's going to play. But we'll see how much that hobbles him this next week. So I do like that matchup.
All right, Jared Goff is definitely a starter, in my opinion. I would say, I mean, he's had only like a couple incomplete passes his last 4 games. It's just been.
He's a must start against the Packers for sure.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And then, he's definitely a starter, but I'm just saying he's a must start against the Packers this week. And then the other guys trending up too, like Jaleem McMillan and Trey Palmer, I like them against the Chiefs with a Shepard injury. And the Chiefs, they do have one of the top 5 ranked defenses, but they definitely have to step up this week with the receiver injuries they have there.
All right, fair enough. Well, I'm going with Bo Nix again. He was my nasty sleeper last week, Dave. 30 fantasy points. He did better than guys like Tua. Better than guys like I think Burrow even. He did really good last week. Jameis Winston was freaking amazing last week. I actually put him as my tiebreaker guy in our dynasty league. But
you did? Nice.
I put Tua in, and Tua got 14. He got a ton, but I didn't need it anyway since we got that last Pickens deal. Dallas Goedert, if he's back against the Jaguars, would be big. I'm hoping he's back from injury, but he's a must start against the Jags. Wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins against Tampa's bad pass D. Yeah, and Tampa just lost linebacker Levante David. So, man, I think.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Chiefs, I mean, who are you going to say? I think Kareem Hunt's already a starter, but I think DeAndre Hopkins now is probably a guy you slot in your flex now against Tampa's bad D for sure. I even like Caleb Williams against the Cardinals. I think he gets bounced back either way, even though he has bad coaching. I could see him being a little embarrassed from last week and having a pretty good week. A lot of people score on the Cardinals. Wide receiver Roma Dunze, you can just pair him with them too. But I also do like Kyler Murray, like you said, against the Bears, especially if the Bears still are losing Jaquan Brisker. There's a couple guys in the Bears, couple secondary that's been banged up. Austin Eckler against the Giants too. So we can't forget about him. I think he's going to get some pass receptions against the Giants, maybe break a big one. Well, running back Chuba Hubbard, believe it or not, against the Saints. So I kind of disagree with your Saints D. I think Chuba Hubbard is still going to be able to get some points, Dave. Maybe the Saints D is still a good start, but you're probably going with Bryce Young there. I don't know why you'd play Andy Dalton now. It's like, are you really trying to win games or just find out if Bryce has anything? I say you start Bryce Young.
I think Bryce starts the rest of the year, actually. I agree with you on that. Plus, Dalton's still banged up, so yeah, I would start Bryce the rest of the year. Just let him play.
Yeah, for sure. Let's
find out what you got.
Let's talk about Devin Singletary. Gosh, man, now I think I'm switching to Tyrone Tracy. I am taking away Devin Singletary and I'm switching to Tyrone Tracy. I thought Singletary would be possibly still the starter, but no, not after today. I think it's Tyrone Tracy for sure. I actually like Raheem Mostert against the Bills a little bit. I think he's going to get some points. He got 15 points last week. I benched him in most of my leagues, but he got 15 points last week. So, that's what I have for like the non-starters trending up. But I'll move right into bus. Wide receiver Tyler Lockett, Dave. This was the week for him to do something. I was playing somebody that had Lockett. He got like 1.5 points.
Well.
Yeah, that's bad, Now, don't get me wrong. I will say it was raining the whole time, So, I mean, I understand that part of it. Oh, Steelers field goal. Come on. But either way, this dude has not performed. I am worried about Tyler Lockett. Maybe you give it one more go if DK's out, but if you have better options, go with better options. Well, I think he's done just not trustable. James Conner against the Bears is a little bit rough. James Conner is such a stud, but man, I'm worried about the Bears. Running back Rashad White at the Chiefs, that's not good at all. So I don't like him playing the Chiefs. Running back Javonte Williams against the Ravens, a pissed off Ravens too. Don't like Javonte Williams this week. I do like Bo Nix to throw the ball. I don't like them running the ball against the best run D. Running back Ramondre Stevenson against the Titans, believe it or not, is bad. Titans, they got to play for some dignity. If you watch that game, it was all special teams yards. It was every time there was a punt, the dude ran it back to a touchdown or the 20.
Anything really on offense. They had 100 yards passing. Like, it was all just like special teams, and then their defense, like they were just getting good field position every time. So yeah, Detroit didn't actually do really much on offense.
I know. I never seen anything like that, dude. It was absolutely insane.
God.
Oh man. And then I like back to Bus. Patriots wide receivers, I think, against the Titans, especially if Snead is back. So be watching if Snead's back. Quarterback CJ Stroud, Dave. I have him in a few leagues, but without those two receivers, only got Tank Jet.
Struggling, yeah.
Well, you know who we should have said to pick up is Mechie, John Mechie. I'm gonna add him back to the waiver wire. John Mechie is actually made some good catches, and so it's going to be Mechie and Tank Dell really is going to be the guys for probably here on out at least until Collins is back, but they're still going to get some playing time. So John Mechie and Tank Dell will put in there for pickups. If you don't have Tank Dell, you probably should be owning by now, but Mechie. And then that's what I have for Bus. Who do you have for Bus, Dave?
Pretty similar to you, actually. Javonte Williams, I don't like him against the tough Ravens D. I don't like Tua against the Bills. I think the Bills defense have actually been playing pretty well the last couple of weeks. I don't like Mostert as well. Even though he had a good week this past week, I like the Bills have been playing much better actually lately. I don't like the Chargers run D or the running backs against the Browns either. I don't think Dobbins has a good day against the Browns. They still have a good run D. The pass D is what's been struggling here. I don't like you said, I agree with James Conner. I don't think he has a good day against the Bears D. Bears D has actually been legit these last couple of weeks. Eagles D has actually been looking better. I think Trevor Lawrence doesn't have as good of a day as he did against the Packers. I think the Eagles D steps up, and I think he kind of struggles against the Eagles a little bit. I like them actually. The Colts, I like the Vikings actually. The Vikings have one of the better defenses this year. They've been giving up some points here, but I definitely don't like the Richardson if he's starting or Flacco against the Vikings. I don't like that matchup actually. But then, and I do agree with the other Rashad White. I was going to say that before. I don't like him against the Chiefs either. So I agree with you on all those actually.
All right, fair enough. That brings us to our nasty sleeper, Dave. Do you want to go first or me? I don't want to steal yours again.
I'm going first this week. I'll let you have it last week. I'm going Bo Nix, actually.
Okay.
I'm week in a row, actually, against the Ravens. Ravens have one of the worst pass defenses in the league right now. And then they're not going to be able to run the ball against the Ravens because the Ravens do have a good run D. I'm going Bo Nix as my D-Nasty sleeper this week since I wasn't able to last week.
Well, I'm sticking with the quarterback too, but I'm going with someone we don't talk about a lot. Sam Darnold against the Colts.
I like it.
I mean, he's got extra rest coming off the bad win, or bad loss against the Rams, and the Colts defense is bad, and I think they're going to be able to pick it apart with those receiving studs with Jefferson and Addison, and guess who's supposed to be back? Hawkinson. We should probably have mentioned that. Take a look at the waiver wire for tight end Hawkinson. He's going to be a stud over there.
He was actually, but I don't know if he'll play this week or not, and how much he'll play actually. But yeah, definitely pick him up if he's available in any of your leagues.
For sure, yeah, because he was great last year, and he's been great even when he was on the Lions. He's got to spell his name E-N, not I-N, Hawkinson. So there we go. So great sleepers again. We got two quarterbacks. We got Bo Nix once again, and we also have Sam Darnold. Dave, anything we're missing?
Not much. Just make sure you get those people out for the buys. There are only a couple buys this week. Check those game inactives before games this week and make sure you get all your healthy starters in there.
Also getting close to trade deadlines, guys. So if you need to make a move, get those trade offers in. You might be able to pick up some gold from some desperate teams. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions for us, feel free to tweet us at The Oddsbreakers. Email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com. Have a great rest of your week. And go get some winners.